the Christmas party hop. Mistletoe hung where you can't see, every couple dressed up. Rocking around the Christmas tree, let the Christmas spirit ring. Later we'll have some pumpkin pie, yeah, we'll do some caroling.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our quarterly Listen Up call for ATB Wealth. I'm Samantha Matheson, Director of Communications for Wealth, and welcome everyone to what's almost the end of the year. It's hard to believe that we're only a week away from Christmas Eve, so hopefully that song got you in the spirit. Hopefully your shopping's possibly done, and you're going to take some time to relax and rejuvenate with family and friends, and look forward to good turkey and things like that after what was a very busy year. So we're going to take today's hour to go through highlights of the last quarter and do a bit of a look ahead of what you can expect as we welcome the new year of 2019. So first up on our agenda is Chris Terchansky, who's going to talk about what's been going on in the markets and also what we're going to be looking forward to in terms of a strategic focus for FY or into 2019 and into fiscal year 20, which is just on the horizon. Then I'm going to pass things over to Nick Mawhinney, who's our CFO of ATB Investment Management, who joined us for last quarter's call to take us through an overview of our results. Then Heather Hamill, Senior Marketing Manager, is going to give us a sneak peek of the new brand campaign that'll be in market starting in January. And finally, we have Greg Turner joining us, who's the director of the Listening Post, to talk about what our customers are telling us today and what we can do with that information to really show that ATB listens. So welcome, Chris. I'm going to turn things over to you. Are you ready for Christmas? All your shopping done?
No, no, although I wasn't even ready for, like, literally seconds ago, I lost volume on this call, so I was quite nervous at whether I could see you talking, and I'm like, I have no idea what Sam's saying.
Well, that's good. I talked all about you, Chris, so it's all good. Yeah, I did your whole presentation. No, I was actually talking about how we're only a week away from Christmas. Next Monday is Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that next Monday's Christmas Eve, and I think you can debate whether this is the craziest time of year, depending how you celebrate the holidays or not. But whether it's the craziest, I think there's no debate that it's definitely a really busy time, whether it's last minute Christmas shopping or, Sam, to your point, in my case, starting Christmas shopping and doing it that way. I've often joked with many people that one of the many great things about being married is my Christmas list went from a number of people down to one, and I still seem to leave it till the last minute from that standpoint. I think it's a busy time of year with get-togethers, whether it's with friends, family, whether it's clients, work, kids, grandkids, Christmas concerts. I know tomorrow we have the luncheon for ATB Wealth here in Edmonton. And at the same time, I've got a Christmas concert later on in that afternoon for my youngest daughter. So it's busy from that standpoint. It's busy trying to determine what songs we're allowed to listen to on the radio anymore and what songs are offside from that standpoint. And I also think it's important to recognize and realize that it's also not only a busy, but it's a difficult time for a number of team members as the holidays are around. So keep that in mind as well. But myself, on behalf of the entire senior leadership team, I want to wish everyone, a great holiday season. Hopefully you're able to take some time with friends and family, and most importantly, relax and enjoy. It's interesting as Christmas gets closer and closer for myself. I think I find myself a little bit reminiscing about sort of Christmases in the past and a little bit sort of looking forward. So whether it's Christmases in the past when I would get up first thing in the morning and I'm sure sort of run around and make sure my parents were up far earlier than their body would let them or than they were ready to get up for. And that sort of morphing into when I was a teenager and myself wanting to sleep in and my parents having to come around and wake me up, to now my daughters wake my wife and I up first thing in the morning when we have no energy for Christmas. So it's a great time to think of past memories and also to think about future memories. And, if I look out across ATB Wealth over last year, there was a number of memorable changes and memorable achievements that we had last year. And if you look, last year really started for the first time in 2018, where we saw volatility come back into the marketplace. We saw a double-digit decline in the US market in the first quarter for the first time in a long time. And our clients were nervous. At the same time, sort of towards the end of February, we heard Dave's announcement of his retirement. Sort of fast forward to Q2, we hear Curtis is going to take over as the next CEO and leader of the company. During that time, we came together as ATB Wealth with a new structure. Fast forward to the fall, we have a new name. At the same time, though, we saw the differential, or the price of oil, and the differential in the price of oil widen out to the largest point that I can remember, and just the impact that that's had on Albertans. And at the same time, we saw another decline in the price of the stock market. So we've had some tremendous highs over the last year and some tremendous challenges. And I think the one thing all across ATB Wealth, and it doesn't matter if you're a financial advisor, or if you're a private client advisor, if you're within operations or compliance, or when you're with finance or marketing and communications, it's during these times of turbulence, during the times of not just market volatility, but volatility around the economy, uncertainty around the economy in terms of what's going to happen. This is the time where we have the greatest impact on our clients' lives. This is the time where we make the biggest difference. This is the time when we help create the path forward so that clients will ultimately be successful and achieve their long-term goals. And I think that's the most important part is, and that's why it's so critical over these holidays to take some time and rest and recharge, because when January comes, our clients will need us. Our clients will need our coaching to help them get through this difficult time. Our client will need our expertise. They'll need our trust. They'll need our ability to help connect the dots in terms of what's going on in their lives today and with their goals and their dreams. So I hope everyone takes some time to rest and relax and have a great holiday season, because our clients will need us in the new year. Unfortunately, this call is not just about Christmas wishes, and there are some business things I would love to share and talk a little bit about in terms of ATB's strategic priorities moving forward. Everyone knows that we're in the third year of our strategic plan, and we approached it a little bit different this year than in prior years. In prior years, you would have seen sort of 11 strategic plans of all the AOEs and SSUs across the business would have created a strategic plan. You would see them on the website in the annual report. And this year, what we decided to do is to really, how do we highlight how all 11, whether it's different AOEs or strategic support units, how do we all come together under one cohesive plan, but still show that uniqueness of the individual areas of expertise or strategic support units. So at a high level, when you look at ATB's strategic plan for 2020, the 4 pillars are what's on the screen right here. And then what you'll see and what we'll present to our board in February is how ATB Wealth contributes to these 4 pillars. What are the business initiatives that fall under our strategic plan that works to these 4 pillars from that standpoint. So at a high level, these 4 pillars, aren't new as we're in the third year of the strategic plan. It's really taking our 2 points of differentiation, which was our investment in transformation and our investment in obsession, and bringing them together. And I think that's what you really see in the first pillar of investing heavily in transformation, heavily in transforming the workplace and the work we need to do. That's all about all of the investments that we've made, whether it's the investments from a Salesforce standpoint, from Lending Reimagined, from an ATB investment management foundational tools standpoint. how do we take all of that work and know that how we work has to change through ATB Wealth, but also across the entire organization. The second pillar is really the focus on obsession and how do we put the clients at front and center of everything we do, whether we're in operations, whether we're in finance, whether it's compliance or marketing, that this view of having one single client, that no longer are we clients of each other's, that everything we do is with the goal of delivering an amazing client experience to the end client from that standpoint. If you've had a chance to listen to Curtis over the last 6 months as he's taken over as CEO, he's talked about the need to strengthen our core in the last year of this strategic plan in terms of a number of cracks that have been appearing over some time that are critically important for us to really deliver on the next phase or the next journey of our strategy. So both in how do we become brilliant at executing, and also how do we support that with the right processes in place so that people can do their job each and every day. And the last one probably highlights ATB Wealth more than any single strategic pillar. And really, you could argue that everything that we do almost falls under this category, which is diversifying revenue and bolstering our balance sheet. And it is critically important as we look at our spread business, which is just how we traditionally have made money between taking in deposits and lending that out, how that business continues to be disrupted and to change, that we have to aggressively grow other income. And there's no greater source of other income across the entire bank than ATB Wealth. So Curtis will continually remind me that we're a growth business and we need to find ways to continue to grow and to diversify the bank's balance sheet as we look into the future. So at a high level, those are the 4 pillars that really set the foundation for the new strategic plan that all areas of expertise and SSUs will align to moving forward, and look forward to sharing specifically the initiatives and the activities unique to ATB Wealth underneath when we get that approved and have a chance to talk to our board in February. So with that, Sam, I'll maybe pause and see if there's any questions, whether they're on ATB's strategic priorities or anything else that we have going on in the business.
Great, thanks, Chris. Yeah, we did have a couple questions coming in. At the conference back in beginning of November, you talked about ATB Wealth's value proposition and how that had shifted slightly to what you'd communicated to the broader team at our last quarterly update. So with the volatile markets we're experiencing right now and with this strategic vision you've just put in front of us, how does ATB Wealth differentiate ourselves from our competition?
If all that was in the question, that could have been one of the longest writing questions we've ever received.
I may have added a little more in there,
which is fantastic. But yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think the 4 pillars that I had a chance to talk to everyone about at the last Listen Up Live call, starting with trust and expertise and delivering an amazing experience and the foresight to connect the dots. Those are the areas that will differentiate ourselves. And I think when you look through the lens of the challenging markets that we have right now, but also the challenging economic times in terms of we have a number of private banking clients that are working through very difficult economic times, whether they're business owners, whether they've got investments in actual businesses. So there's definitely challenging times for them. And I think that's where, if you look at the first pillar, trust, and when people trust the advice that we provide them, they know that when they're hearing about all of the things that are going on in the marketplace, all the things that are going on in the world, when they hear from their neighbor or their brother over the Christmas holidays that now is the time to get out of the market or to abandon investments within Alberta, if it's business investments, that when you have that trusted relationship, they're not going to act on that until they reach out, till they understand what your viewpoint as that advisor, that trusted advisor really is. And that's where we need to use our expertise. We need to use our expertise to comfort clients through these challenging times, to set that vision and to communicate to them in a way that is smart, simple, and helpful. That in these times when uncertainty hits, our goal is to reduce that uncertainty and not to increase it. So I think, it's times like this where we're able to really differentiate ourselves much easier than when the markets are going up and when the economy is growing at a fast pace, because now is when clients are worried, and now is when, if we live up to those 4 pillars, we're really able to reduce the complexity in our clients' lives.
Great, thanks, Chris. Just one other topic that we touched on our last Listen Up call was the spread between loans and deposits. And I know, we've seen lots of, commentary and advertising about rates right now, and we're going into RSP season, and people are thinking about making those savings decisions. So can you talk a little bit about where we are corporately with that spread, and what Wealth can do again going into this last quarter to really make sure that we position ATB to be in a good financial state?
Yeah, I think there's 2 sort of components there. One is our mix between loans and deposits, right? So in order for us to lend money out, we have to take in deposits. And what does that mix look like? And I think you've seen a lot of conversation, whether it's from Curtis or when Curtis and Bob sent out their our second quarter results, there was talk about this mix between loans and deposits. And that's why you're seeing, not just here at ATB, but a number of banks provide very attractive short-term rates on deposits, so they can bring in deposits so that they can lend that out. So I think you're still going to see that challenge in terms of the mix between loans and deposits. That challenge in the province of Alberta is probably exaggerated because, we are very much an entrepreneurial province. We're a younger province than a lot of the other provinces. So we have more people who are apt to borrow money than to sort of deposit money. So I think the biggest thing from that perspective that we can do is we have to lead with advice. And I know this entire team does a brilliant job at leading with advice based on building trusted relationships and our expertise to do that. What we don't want to do, and what we want to be very careful, and I know all of our partners are being very careful of this as well, is just simply selling a product because there is a great rate right now, because there's volatility in the market. Let's simply move clients to a GIC or sell a GIC. I think it's that advice, those conversations that we have, that are absolutely critical.
Great, thanks, Chris. Last question before we move on to Nick, and it's a good one. You talked about investing heavily in transforming ATB's workforce, workplace, and work. What exactly are we talking about when we talk about transforming the workplace? Are there certain skills that leaders and team members are needing to focus on that we aren't today?
Yeah, great question. I think as we continue to introduce new technology, the new technology that we introduce changes the way we've done our work in the past, and some of the work is now redundant, and there's new work that's being created from that perspective. So I think it's critical, whether it's from a Salesforce standpoint, whether it's from a Lending Reimagine, that what we're ready for is that as new technology is introduced and we're able to eliminate some, what I'll say is sort of administrative type work, we're able to expand that into more value add. So how do we put the client at the center of everything we do? And with the time that we've freed up through technology, we're able to have better conversations with clients, to spend more time in front of clients creating an amazing experience, and less time sort of working through old processes that are 12 or 14 steps long. How do we change that? So it's not that work is going away, it's the amount of work is going to change where that work is. I think we have to be adaptable to that. And what we need to do is continually focus on how do we provide an amazing client experience.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. And if you have any other questions for Chris throughout the rest of this hour, please feel free to put them into the chat field. And Chris, you mentioned that in the new year, we'll also come back and give a much more in-depth focus around what ATB Wealth is doing as their business priorities leading into FY20. So thanks so much. We're going to turn things over now to Nick Mawhinney, who's our CFO for ATB Investment Management. Nick's going to take us through our results for the last quarter and year to date and talk about what we can do to position ourselves to end Q4 on a strong note. Over to you, Nick.
Thanks, Sam. Good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know, I joined ATB about 18 months ago, and one of the immediate challenges I faced was navigating through all the acronyms that we use. As I was preparing for this presentation, it struck me that while the majority of us and the people on this call are not necessarily new to ATB, we all are fairly new to ATB Wealth, and are likely faced with a similar challenge of navigating a slew of new acronyms and terms depending on what side of the legacy business you came from. So before I provide an update on our financial results, I thought I'd spend a few minutes to provide a high level and hopefully not too simplistic overview of how ATB Wealth comes together and linkages to the client solutions offered and the drivers of revenue and expenses in each area, especially since they get referred to often on updates such as this. As everyone knows, ATB Wealth came about through the combining of Alberta Private Client and Investor Services offerings, or put another way, private banking and investments. Private banking products and services can be broadly categorized under loans such as home equity lines of credit or HELOC, mortgages and other loans, and deposits such as savings and fixed date deposits. The main source of revenue derived from banking products is interest, and is achieved through the spread or difference between the interest cost to ATB and interest paid or received from a client. For example, if you think of your savings account and mortgage, you will likely have to pay a higher interest rate for your mortgage than you receive in your savings account. Essentially, ATB uses the deposits, which it is paying out a lower rate of interest on, and provide loans, which it receives a higher rate of interest on, creating the spread. This revenue is referred to as net interest income, or NII, and is the main type of revenue for ATB as an enterprise, as other AOEs such as RFS and BNAG also operate a similar model, albeit with a different focus and scale. This is also the reason why we focus on loan and deposit growth as a means of measuring productivity. On the other side, investments is anchored around an advice service model, the nature of which varies depending on client needs, but includes investment advice, financial planning, tax and estate planning, amongst other things. The range of investment solutions also varies and is typically tailored around the advice that is provided to a client's specific circumstances, and includes stocks, bonds, exchange-traded funds or ETFs, and mutual funds. Fees for both advice and the investment solutions are normally but not exclusively charged as a percentage of client asset balances. As a result, the focus is on assets under management or advice, AUM or AUA, when it comes to productivity, as asset values have a direct impact on revenue and expenses. More assets leads to more revenue through asset-based management and advisory fees. But in turn, this also drives higher expenses such as sub-advisor fees and commission expenses. Unlike banking, the revenue is predominantly fee-based, and from an ATB financial perspective, this source of revenue is referred to as other income. As Chris mentioned in his opening comments, growing other income is a strategic focus for ATB in fiscal 2020 and going forward as the bank looks to diversify its revenue base. At the last Listen Up call, we reflected on some positive financial results. We were ahead of plan against most metrics, as higher than budgeted assets under advice, largely driven by strong market growth, contributed to a positive revenue variance, and lower than planned expenditures also played a part in helping achieve better than budgeted earnings through the end of the first quarter and into July and August. We also acknowledged that we were approaching a significant milestone of $20 billion in assets under advice. You could say the view in the rear mirror was pretty good. Fast forward to today, and you could say the rear view is not quite the same, but perhaps not as catastrophic as depicted here. Since mid-September, the financial markets have been a lot more volatile than what we have come to expect recently. For many, this is perhaps not surprising, but it does highlight the fact that we can't control the markets and therefore rely on them to get us across the finish line. Moving on and looking at our productivity and results through the end of November, we can see year-to-date loan growth of 173 million is slightly below budget. This attainment is largely due to unanticipated growth in independent business loans, whereas growth in residential mortgages and HELOC, which combined constitute a significant portion of the loan book, has tapered off over this past quarter. Year-to-date deposit growth of 98 million has fallen behind plan, as we saw a net reduction in redeemable fixed-date deposit balances in both October and November as a result of a couple of sizable withdrawals. As alluded to earlier, it has been somewhat of a roller coaster ride in respect to assets under advice. While gathering efforts have remained pretty stable, the impact of market performance has had its fair share of twists and turns. We closed November at $19.6 billion of assets under advice, which reflects year-to-date asset growth of 924 million. 873 of this is driven by net assets gathered, with the market contributing a further 51 million. At the end of Q1, the market had contributed approximately 400 million to our asset growth. So you can see the markets have removed approximately 350 million from our asset base since then. This seems like a lot in dollar terms, but it represents slightly less than 2% of our total assets, and less than some of the daily market moves that we have seen recently. I wish I could say that the first few weeks of December has seen a market rebound. Unfortunately, the markets are continuing to take more than they are giving right now. The recent reduction in our asset balances will impact revenue forecasts. However, as this change has been fairly recent, the impact is less noticeable in our current year-to-date financial results, as ATB Wealth operating revenue of 151.5 million is tracking slightly above budget. Operating revenue is split between net interest income, which, as mentioned previously, is predominantly banking-related revenue, and other income, which is predominantly investment-related. Expenses of 135 million or 5.5 million below plan, and this is mostly due to timing differences of hiring and initiatives during what has been a busy year of changes. Overall, income before provisions is favorable to plan. However, with productivity levels below plan and a headwind from markets impacting us and adding further pressure, the next quarter will be challenging if we are to deliver to plan. In terms of other metrics that may be of interest, growth in net assets is 7.8% above the Investment Fund Institute of Canada, or IFIC benchmark, at the end of October, resulting in maximum attainment as the Canadian mutual fund industry has seen negative growth in 2018. APIS net income is tracking at 144 attainment, but applying the IFIC multiplier, it is at maximum attainment. Q2 client advocacy index is at 58, resulting in the 93.75% attainment. And finally, the achievement note value is at $144 per note. December in our house is an exciting time. The beginning of the month is marked by the birthday of our eldest daughter. And once this is done, Christmas fever quickly kicks in, with lists to Santa being written and seemingly added to on a daily basis. This year, as we will not be at home for Christmas, there has been much concern that Santa knows where to go, and detailed instructions have been provided to help them out. In the spirit of the holidays, I have put together my own Christmas New Year's wish list for ATB Wealth, which includes the return of stable and positive financial markets, a change in the fortunes of the economic prosperity of Alberta, and exponential growth in our loan, deposit, and asset balances. And if this is too much to ask for, then simply that everyone has a successful and prosperous 2019, and the view out of the front window is not as stormy as what it currently looks in the rear mirror. Thank you, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nick. Great Christmas list, and I love the fact that your kids are have given Santa a detailed explanation of how to find them in London. I think that's amazing. So sure he'll find his way. We're going to turn things over now to Heather Hamill to give us an update on our brand campaign that's going to be in market starting in January, and that's leading up to our ATB Wealth campaign that we've talked about over the past couple of quarters. So Heather, welcome to the call. Hope you're also ready for Christmas, and can't wait to get a sneak peek of what we can look forward to in January.
Yeah, good morning. I hope everybody can hear me okay.
Loud and clear.
Perfect. So if we want to just go right to the next slide. So before we get into the campaign update, I want to give a shout out to Jackie Whitson and the team that's been working on getting marketing collateral up and running, and just do a quick shout out for her on ATB Drive. So ATB Drive is your one-stop shop for all the marketing materials for all wealth areas. And, since October, we have added just a ton of stuff there. And if we can just go to the next slide. These are just an example of some of the things that are available, as well as all the information required to get you up and running and able to place orders. Your business coordinators can also kind of help you with that, guide you along. But if you just go to this website, I promise everything is so simple. The other exciting thing that I know everybody has been waiting for is that business cards, as of this morning, are finally live on Pioneer. Our long national nightmare is over. So you can go order business cards there if you are still in need. And pop on to the next one, please. So perfect. So here we are. As you all know, we started in October. We sent client announcements. We launched our website. We have started our marketing materials, and we kicked our search marketing into market. In January, we'll be launching the new ATB brand campaign. So I'll give you a little bit of a look-see of what that looks like just next. And we'll be kicking off a bit of an wealth PR campaign, so that we're laying a little runway for when we go loud and proud in March and April. And then in March, April, all the way until June, we're going to launch the ATB Wealth brand in an advertising campaign, and that will be very exciting. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So we can just advance to the next one. So just to take us back to ATB Listens, this campaign has been in market now for just a little over 2 years. And what we found in research is that although ATB has a good claim to, being believable and honest, people believe that those are traits that ATB has, Listens wasn't really holding water, because we weren't giving customers a good explanation of why it mattered, or what was in it for them. We can go to the next one. So what we needed to do was kind of tie the bow a little tighter for customers. We needed to give Listens more value or meaning or customer benefit, and really be able to find out the sweet spot for our brand. So we needed to connect Listens, which is our brand promise, to ATB's why we exist, and that's to make banking work for people. So the creative platform that was put forward is all about this is why. And so this is taking our customer stories about ATB and letting them tell their story and our story from their point of view. As Chris was talking about at the beginning of this call, we have tremendous impact on our customers' lives, not only during the holidays, but throughout the entire year. And we have the ability to shape that relationship and to make great things happen. And our biggest advocates are those people who we've touched in this way. And their relating of our story is more impactful than anything that we could ever say about ourselves. So this is a heavily video-oriented campaign. And the next few slides, we'll just kind of click through quickly, talk about, how we might position certain stories, right? So in this case, Amanda, her credit rating was blown by an ex, and she never thought that she was going to be able to have her own credit card again. But, working with ATB, we were able to help her rebuild her credit. And, we are the Kellys, and that's why ATB listens, right? So our people are why. This one is a favorite. It's putting the story in the perspective of the dog. So the dog's never had a backyard before, and the story is all about helping somebody get a mortgage. So it has the ability to be light. It has the ability to be emotional, but it really has a lot of impact. And these are just some examples of what it might look like in a digital format. So again, it's a mass market campaign. You're going to see it in TV. You're going to see it in radio. You're going to see it out of home. You're going to see it in digital. It's really quite a big deal. And we can keep going, just samples. Here's Duke again. And then ultimately, these things drive through to a digital experience, a landing page on .com, whether you're a consumer customer or a business customer. And we have a whole background routing campaign that will put customer leads right into the appropriate areas of business. So the wealth advertising launch, the story of the hour. So the great news is that during the ATB brand campaign, we have 2 fantastic wealth stories that are going to be included in that campaign and at a very high level. So I don't know if the advisors who help these particular clients are on the call today, but just so to confirm with you, in case you didn't know, Rod from Brooks and Carrie from Calgary both have been shot for video. And their stories are going to be appearing very high in the chain. So you probably see them on TV, which is fantastic. Specific conversion items for wealth will also be running. So when I say conversion items, I mean things like search. So for example, if I'm looking for things like RSP or GIC or anything to do with the products or bank or advice, we have search terms running for that. You're going to find, customers are going to find what they're looking for. So our wealth brand launch is going to fall into that same general theme of this is why, and it's going to be continuing to use those proof points to demonstrate why ATB Wealth is different and how we deliver happiness for customers specifically to our segment. ATB brand campaign is going to be very heavy in the market that first of the year, which is great because they're going to cut through all the clutter for us and allow us to break through. And then when we serve our message in March, ATB brand has really done a lot of hard work for us to elevate our ATB Wealth message. And then, of course, Prosper will be running continuously throughout in the channels that it currently has. So, in the lead up, in the prep, here's the ask. Do you have an amazing story? Do you want a client of yours featured in the wealth launch campaign? Like ATB brand campaign, we ended up finishing with about 20 filmed customer stories. But to get to 20 filmed customer stories, we had to collect about 100. So we really need your help to find the great wealth stories. So if you have an example of somebody that was able to retire earlier, open a business, or start a legacy with giving, it doesn't matter how big or how small, how through listening has ATB Wealth had a hand in changing a customer's life for the better. We're particularly interested in cases where you got a younger investor into the market, got them started sooner despite maybe their fears or uncertainties. How did you help somebody cross the threshold into retirement in a really lovely way so that they were confident and full of hope and excitement about their future? We want to hear it all. So send me your most engaging stories. You can send it to my personal email. And please do it soon. We'll be collecting, all the way through. This for sure is not going to be the last ask you hear. So we'll send you more details as we start to get more fully into this process, but just know that we're going to be out there and looking. I guess the last point is that this doesn't only have to be customers willing to speak on camera. This campaign has a whole angle where we talk about our team members and how our team members have the expertise and the ability to provide advice. So there's a whole team member angle here as well. So we might be exploring that with you later as well. So that's my story. Very quick update, but we're all super excited, and you'll start to see the ATB brand campaign roll out in January, and we hope to have a sneak peek for people soon on what that looks like.
Thanks so much, Heather. Sounds exciting. We're getting comments here that people are really liking the emotional aspect of this and sharing stories and showing how we're actually changing people's lives for the better, which is bringing that ATB story to life. So I did have one interesting question though, Heather. Why the humans of ATB and not the people? Where did that wording come from?
Yeah, that's interesting. Some of you may be familiar with a website that was called Humans of New York. I think it was just a light lift on words, but really the focus was meant to, in the early creative iterations, was meant to just focus on focusing on the humanity, because that's really what makes us a lot different at ATB. You can't listen, you can't act on that listening if you're not acting like a human and treating other people as a human. So it was really meant to kind of strip us down to our most basic emotional core. What do we really need from our friends, our family, the community around us? And that really is that angle, of humanity. I'm getting a little choked up. It's Christmas.
Oh, no, it sounds great. And I can't wait to see the stories because they sound like they're going to be extremely touching. I know last year when we did the What Are You Saving For campaign, it was amazing to hear the stories that came from people who we actually did create happiness for by helping them along that savings journey. So looking forward to seeing those. Thanks for joining us today, Heather. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll just make one last point. One of the lovely things about this campaign is, we talk about a brand campaign and we often, see a brand level spot on TV for Nike or whatnot. And it kind of drives the personality of the brand forward. But sometimes people don't quite feel like it delivers on what the business actually does. And so that's one of the really lovely things about this particular type of campaign is that our customers are talking about sometimes very specific situations. So, we don't have to go out and say, here, buy a mortgage from ATB. Like, we have people talking about that real emotional idea of buying their first home. It's from ATB, therefore ATB sells mortgages. It's kind of all encompassing, which is lovely.
Life moments versus
yeah,
sounds good. Okay, great. No, can't wait to have a sneak peek, and thanks again so much for the update today.
You bet.
All right, so to bring us home today, we have Greg Turner joining us, who is the director of the Listening Post. We're so excited to have you with us today, Greg, to talk about what are our clients telling us? What is it that we need to do? Heather just talked all about listening and, creating those impactful stories. So I'd love to hear what we're hearing out there from our clients and what ATB Wealth can do to truly deliver on that brand promise. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Well, I'm just so glad to see the new brand campaign. Obviously, we supported that with a lot of research, and having the marketing team translate those results into such a terrific campaign, I'm very excited. So great job, Heather, and we really look forward to that. Today is really about listening and what we're hearing from clients, and really about our plans and really adding value. So what we're going to talk about today is what's driving our value. And if we want to just jump right in, we can just move forward in terms of the drivers and what we're seeing from our clients over time. So again, jump in, but really we're on a really great trend in terms of our advisor services. As you can see, clients are giving us top marks for our advisor services. What we are really talking about today and highlighting is really the fees and commissions, as we've seen a long-term decline in satisfaction around fees. And really, fees is about value and the customers. So we're seeing great acknowledgement and satisfaction with our advisories. But as, again, more and more robo-advisors and discount brokerage and the focus on fees obviously is becoming a challenge. So again, to kick this over, and it's really about highlighting the value that we provide. And today is really, like I said, all about highlighting the value that we provide to our clients. And again, our relationships are building strong every day. A little bit of focus, and we'll move forward. Next, please. So how can ATB Wealth deliver value? And so when we speak to clients, this is really what they value from the service that we provide. in terms of unbiased advice and guidance, your deep knowledge of investing, in terms of markets and current events, also financial security, and really giving our clients peace of mind, their trust and confidence, and really the point of contact as that go-to person. So really that's what our clients tell us that they really value. And there's some great quotes, I think, that we've selected in terms of guiding us in reaching our financial goals and removing the emotions from the financial decision, and really a sounding board, second sober thought. So these are some really great quotes from our clients in terms of how we can explain and understand investing, making the terms easy to understand, and again, making sure that our clients are in touch with world events. So really that is the value that clients derive from our services. Do you want to continue, please? Okay, so how do we really translate this value into to the client in terms of, and really it centers around the financial plan. So when we ask clients the value around the plan, and this is really where we connect everything to the clients, and after the meetings, this is what they refer back to in the living document that kind of goes on when we're away from our client, and they refer back to it. So really, again, 43% of our respondents say, you know, if they have a written plan or a developed plan, they're much more likely to stay with a financial institution. 90% agree that it's a real valuable document. It helps them understand their investments. It also puts their minds at ease, and obviously they want it to evolve on an ongoing basis. So really, it's the place where we showcase our guidance and knowledge. It helps our clients feel keep worry-free, and it's that document that they go back to time and time again to really understand their plans. So again, it also helps to strengthen our relationship, and it really allows you to understand the client, and the client to also understand, you know, their long-term goals. And do you want next, please? So what is it about the plan that our clients are really, what they expect in a plan versus what are they getting in their plan? So really, when we asked them what they've expected versus what they're getting, we found three particular wow opportunities, and really they're around the financial goals. We found a significant gap between what clients expect in the plan and what they found that they have in the plan. That doesn't mean they're not actually in the plan, but again, the client may not realize they're there, they might have glossed over them, but really these are the three wow opportunities where, in terms of making sure that financial goals with timelines are in the plan. That was a significant gap area for clients. A wealth and estate transfer plan, again, another significant area where there's an opportunity to highlight the importance of wealth transfer. And then finally, financial tips and coaching, where when they're referring to, when they're getting nervous or wanting to make a change or looking at, so what is the tips or coaching that we put into that plan that they can draw back to? So those are what we have referred to as the wow opportunities to potentially close a little bit of the gap between the plans we're providing and the client expectations. Again, not saying that they're not there. There is certainly an opportunity to highlight these three particular wow areas for customers. Okay, some myths about investing that we've found, and particularly 1 in 5 of clients really, they found that they need to watch the market and make frequent changes in their investment to get the best returns. 23% of clients believe that they need to, the longer they invest, the better the rates that they're going to get. And this is the final one, is really the one that we focused in on, is that over half of clients felt that they should spread their wealth across different firms to get a better return. And so really the myth out there is that if you to avoid loss, you can spread your portfolio across a number of firms, and that will help you prevent loss. Obviously, a considerable myth here. So we'll just move ahead with that. So the importance of plans. And so again, we look at this from an industry perspective and really what we found. And so why are we focusing so much on the value and the value that plans add for our clients? Well, again, you can see that the advocacy score jumps from an average of 36 to 48, so a 12-point increase when customers do have a plan. And so ATB is also leading all of the big five in terms of their investments, in terms of developing a plan for our customers. However, obviously, as you can see in the yellow bars, we are definitely, the gap is closing, and as competitors focus on plans, but there's still a real good opportunity here, again, to significantly increase advocacy by closing the gap on plans, and particularly around the opportunities that we have. So what I'll leave you with here is the key takeaways in terms of showing our value and making sure that people certainly, and our clients certainly, trust our advice and our advisory services, highlighting that we show and that our value is really related to unbiased advice and guidance, and making sure that we have deep knowledge of markets, connecting people to their plans, obviously, and highlighting the expertise, and really making sure that their financial goals in the 3 wow areas, the financial goals are well documented with timing, that we have wealth transfer and also coaching and investing tips. So when they're referring back to their plan, and really demonstrating spreading your wealth across firms is not going to alleviate losses, and certainly moving your money around can actually have the reverse effect in terms of generating higher returns. So really, those are the 3 large takeaways that we'd like to leave you with today.
Thanks so much, Greg. Lots of rich content in there for sure. And I'm hearing a lot of tie-in to the commitments we talked about and the importance of clients feeling like they need to have and understand what their plan is for us. You touched on the emotional side. And as Chris just mentioned, there's a lot of that present right now in terms of market volatility, economic uncertainty, people going into the holiday season, et cetera. So thank you so much for sharing that. I did have a couple questions that came through for you. One of them being around sort of goals and dreams. So was there anything specifically in the research that talked about, what it is that people are actually saving for and trying to achieve in their journey to reach those goals? Was there anything specifically they spoke to?
Difficult question. Again, there's a lot in there. So some people, depending on where you are in life, I think if you put that together with the wow and the opportunity for gap is not only what I want to achieve, but my legacy for my family and that wealth transfer. So, at the end of the day, particularly if you have kids or family and what you want to accomplish, but then also how is that going to translate in terms of a transfer plan? So short term, saving obviously for retirement, my retirement goals, but then also coupling that with how is this going to translate into wealth for my children?
Gosh, great. And next question was this consistent across all segments when you talked about those results? In terms of mass market and our high net worth, and was there a consistency, or did we see differences depending if you were a Prosper client versus someone who had a high net worth portfolio?
Well, I think particularly in the transfer, obviously, transfer of wealth is more important depending on the life cycle that you're in. And obviously, it becomes more important. So again, yes, it's consistent. I think it becomes more important depending on your age.
Right. Great. And I know that we've been doing some work, Sherry's team has been doing some work with your team, Greg, on the listening post to really, figure out, what are those rich questions we want to start to ask our clients now that we are ATB Wealth. So the banking journey, the investment journey, that holistic wealth journey now, so that we can truly feel like we understand them and are able to adapt and mold and shape our service model and our advice and the value that we add to make sure that we are helping them achieve those goals and dreams by hitting the mark on what's really important to them. So we look forward to working with your team more and being able to truly, be able to understand the voice of both our clients, but as Albertans overall too.
Thank you.
So thanks so much for being here today, Greg.
I'd also like to give a little bit of a shout out to Genevieve Durban. She couldn't be here today. She's unfortunately away on a family emergency. So again, I'd like to thank Genevieve for helping put this together.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know Genevieve will be on calls to come, so everyone will get a chance to meet her too. And our thoughts are with her as she's dealing with that, especially at this time of year.
Thank you.
So just to wrap up, Chris, I've actually had a question come in for you that I think actually is a nice way to end today's program. And it's about the idea of change. And, this has been a year for change in markets, change in our team, change in priorities, change in economy, all of that. And what advice do you have for all of us as team members around how to deal with that and how to, enter the new year feeling like, we're equipped, because more change will come. We know that change is inevitable, but I think people are starting to feel the weight of that. So what advice would you have for us all today?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I think probably the worst thing, which oftentimes we'll do, is we just sort of say to ourselves, well, change is going to happen, and it's going to happen at a faster pace going forward, and we just have to learn to deal with it. And I think that doesn't reflect the impact that change has on people. So I think first and foremost, change is going to happen, but what's imperative that we do is we need to look after ourselves, both sort of mentally, physically, to be able to prepare and deal with change. I think we need to make sure that we're willing to speak up and have conversations and to talk to people about how we're feeling through change, because the worst thing we can do is just sort of accept change as it comes and don't have open and direct conversations. So I think it's important that we not only take care of ourselves, but we talk to, our leaders, we talk to each other about the pace of change and how change is happening, so that we feel this sense of control as we move through change versus this sense of being out of control, because that's what often will happen as we experience a lot of change over a short period of time.
Thanks for that, Chris. And thanks so much for everyone for joining us today. Thank you to Nick and to Heather, to Greg, and Chris, to yourself. I want to also wish everyone a very happy holiday season. As Chris said, I hope everyone's going to take some time to just relax and be with family and friends and, enter 2019 feeling rejuvenated and excited for the year to come. So have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next year. Take care, everyone.